So what should therapists actually wear when they're providing therapy? This is a topic that's pretty hotly debated among therapists, and there are a lot of people who I think don't really care that much, but then there are people who are very polarized in either direction, who think either they should dress very professionally or be casual, be relaxed, dressed comfortably. And I know that when I was in grad school, I was taught to dress very professionally. And I think there's not a lot of conclusive research on what people should actually do. And so I decided to do some very unofficial, casual, comfortable research on TikTok by asking the therapy-going people of TikTok, what would you like your therapist to wear? And people had a lot of answers. So let's talk about it. What did people say? So a few days after I posted the TikTok, I or really my wife, went through and collected all of the comments that had been put in and then categorized them so that we could figure out, what do people actually think here? Where do the numbers actually end up falling? And I was kind of surprised by the results because I'll be honest, based on my education, I was expecting people to say, I really want my therapist to dress professionally. But it turns out that's not what people, or at least the TikTok responding people, thought at all. So at the time of cataloging or categorizing all of the comments, there were 377 that we categorized. Only 47 people said that they would prefer either business casual or professional. That's only like 12%. And that kind of surprised me because I would have expected that number to be a lot higher. And within that 12%, there are some good comments that make some really good points. Like, I prefer professional because I feel like they're taking me seriously and prepared for work, which makes a lot of sense. You do want your therapist to be prepared for work. Or, it's a transactional and formal relationship. Some things that are shared are highly sensitive topics, and professional dress shows a respect for the situation. Again, that makes a lot of sense. And then another really good point, that this is very specific to individuals, but I know that the person who commented this is not the only one who feels this way. I prefer professional since it's a professional relationship and I struggle to maintain boundaries. And so wearing professional dress for the therapist helps them to remember, like, this is a professional thing. This isn't just like I'm sitting across from a friend. So while the 47 people who commented saying they prefer professional made some really good points, again, they were kind of in the minority. So what was the majority response here? Well, it was 262 out of 377. And they fell into two main camps. They said either, I don't care at all what my therapist wears, as long as they wear clothes. There were actually a good number of people who specified they do want their therapist to be dressed, which is fair, that makes sense. I think it would be kind of distracting to not be. And then the other camp in the majority were people who said, I don't really care that much, I just want them to wear something that's very comfortable for them. Which, as a therapist, I appreciate that, because I do actually enjoy being comfortable while I do therapy. I'm not entirely sure why I was so surprised that the majority of people, 69% to be exact, don't really care. But for some reason I was. I think because there was so much emphasis put on making sure you dress professionally when I was in grad school. What I thought was really interesting though is that there were actually more people who said I prefer casual, as in I would prefer my therapist to not dress professionally, than people who actually prefer them to dress professionally. So of the 377, 65 people, which is I think roughly 17%, said they actually prefer a casually dressing therapist. And of those 65 people, there were actually 42 who didn't just say I prefer it, they said that a professionally dressing therapist actually makes me feel uncomfortable. It makes me feel like I'm in a business meeting. It kind of alienates me. It makes me less likely to open up. And I thought that was really interesting because while I thought dressing unprofessionally could alienate people, for some reason I hadn't thought very much about how dressing professionally could have the same effect. Here are a few of the comments that people made regarding this. For me, a therapist dressing professionally gives me anxiety about them being an authority figure. And that was a sentiment that was echoed by a good number of people. Another person said, the more professional and formal the clothes are, the less comfortable I am with them. It feels closed off and distant. A few of the things that were commented that definitely are worth bringing up are that people said, I don't want them to wear PJs, which again makes sense. Like you want someone to look like they at least showed up and put effort into their appearance, which brings up another one, is that a lot of people said, I want them to be clean. I want them to look like they're well maintained. I don't really necessarily care what they wear, as long as it looks like they put some effort into it. And then another very good point was that therapists probably should try and avoid wearing things that are incredibly polarizing. So like, don't wear a shirt that has a message that's going to alienate a bunch of people, because you want to provide people with a safe space. What's kind of funny though about the responses as a whole is that while there were people on both camps, most people are in the middle in general, and it seems like those people probably don't care, which is the grand majority. And I know that over the last few weeks when I've been thinking about this, I've actually asked a number of my clients, What do you think about what I wear? Do you care how I dress? And not a single person who I asked said that they really cared, and most of them actually said they've never really thought about or noticed what I'm wearing. Which could be because I do virtual therapy, and so they only see me from like here up, but it seems kind of like it doesn't matter as much as I thought it did. On the flip side though, because there are people who are kind of strongly rooted in either camp that say either you should be professional, it makes me more comfortable, or you shouldn't be professional because being professional makes me more uncomfortable, it does make it a little tricky to try to figure out what to do. And because of that, I think the most important thing is that you know the audience that you are working with. If you are a therapist, know the clients that you're working with. If they prioritize dressing professionally, you should do that. And if they don't, it's okay to be more casual. I don't think there's actually a right answer here. But what I can tell you is that in general, as a therapist, I will probably dress more casually from here on out than I have up until this point. Partially because it is more comfortable, and partially because I'm realizing that a lot of the demographic that I actually tend to work with actually prefers the casual over the professional. I would be curious to hear from you though. What do you think? Do you think there is a right or wrong answer here? Or do you have a preference about what a therapist that you see should wear? It's an interesting thing to think about. If you enjoyed this or found it interesting, I would love it if you would maybe give this video a like, maybe hit the subscribe button. But other than that, that is all. So I will see you next time. Bye.